Have you seen the cool high-speed trains they have in other parts of the world? Some of them go really fast. In Japan, they have the maglev train.
The magnetic force is all that's needed to propel it down this test track at jaw-dropping speeds. That was 500 kilometers an hour.
That's the equivalent of about 300 miles per hour. This is a Chinese train that goes about that fast. If it were in America, it could go from New York to Chicago in just over 3 hours. We do have the Acela, which, when the tracks aren't broken, does go 100 miles an hour. So, don't you like trains? I sure do. And we're told they're an answer to crowded roads and pollution. So, isn't it reasonable that we should have incentives for high-speed trains or light rail in cities? Sir.
I spend an hour a day on the train, the New York subway. And it's a wonderful experience. It just could be made faster and more efficient. And I don't know why we don't do more to improve our rail system. So.
Well, the subway is a good example. And that, keep the mic for a moment. That clearly that's something only government can do, right? That's a role for the state.
Correct.
To dig the tunnels, to have that much serving that many people. But did you know that the subways in New York City were built by private companies?
Yes.
So you just said only government can do that?
Well, today I think that's true. Okay. I think there are just too many things that are going to require government intervention to improve the system. Okay.
And yes, sir, you like trains?
Yes, I ride on trains every day in New York City. I take the subway, and I think it's the fastest way to get around New York during the day.
So you're happy with some tax money going to help the trains?
Sure, but I think private companies could handle in producing these trains and the routes that needed without the government subsidies.
All right, well, most of our politicians agree with these people who say trains are great, and they have big plans for more trains.
Building high-speed rail lines that will improve travel and commerce.
It's rail, 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 and rail.
Here's a simulation of what's planned for California. You will pay for this.
We have allocated $8 billion for high-speed rail. We've allocated another $5 billion from $1 billion for the next 5 years. We're making a commitment that is absolutely unprecedented. It is the single best investment of any traveling dollar you can invest in.
Of course, the theory behind that is that
we expect ridership to continually increase, not decrease.
But how likely is that? Often, when I ride the train, this is what I see. This is the Baltimore light rail system. Promoters said it would be an all-new way of commuting for business and pleasure. But the same length of highway near Baltimore moves 10 times as many people. And here's a passenger on Portland's celebrated light rail train. So, is this our future? Is this what we're paying for? Lots of money so a coyote can feel at home? Randall O'Toole of the Cato Institute is the author of Gridlock, Why We're Stuck in Traffic and What We Can Do About It. So tell me about this coyote. Is this not a faked picture?
Well, I don't want to say nobody rides the light rail in Portland, but coyotes like to go where they know they can find solitude from people.
But, come on, there are times of day when these trains are busy.
Yes, but we invest a huge amount of money to run these trains 18, 20 hours a day, and most of the day they're empty. So the average number of people on board a light rail train is about 20 to 25 people. That's not very many people. You could easily carry those people on a bus, and yet we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars when we could spend millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars on buses to have trains instead.
Why?
Well, there's partly the romance of the rails. It's partly because lots of people make lots of money on those hundreds of millions or billions of dollars we're spending building the trains. It's partly because transit agencies have this inferiority complex if they don't have a train. You know, I'm not a real transit agency if I don't have a train, so I have to build a train somewhere. And they rise to their level of incompetence because running a train system is a lot more complicated than a bus system.
In Portland, Oregon, where I used to live, the general manager of the transit system said when the light rail system opened, there's no doubt now that light rail is a huge success.
In 1980, before we opened light rail, 9.8% of Portland area commuters took transit to work. Now we're up to 8%, thanks to light rail. Why?
Was it 9 to 8?
9.8
down to
8.0%. Why? Because when we built the light rail, we had cost overruns, and we had to cut back on bus service, and we lost passengers in other parts of the city.
Buses are less romantic, but they're more practical because they can go where the commuters go.
That's right. They're flexible, they're cheap, and they're easy to run, and all you have to do is look out the window and say, there's where people are going. Once you build a rail line, you're stuck with it forever. And then you have to become a land use czar to try to control how people are going to live and where they're going to go in order to get them to ride your train.
Now, I've been complaining about subsidies on this program. Some people say, hey, other forms of transportation get subsidies. It's only fair trains get their fair share. In fact, Vice President Biden, who rides Amtrak, claims this.
This idea we only subsidize Amtrak. We subsidize the airlines more. We subsidize the highways more. It's the least subsidized form of travel.
True.
85% of our travel is by automobile. And so there are some subsidies, but they add up to less than a penny per passenger mile. Only about 0.1% of our subsidy of our travel is on Amtrak, but the subsidies are 25 cents a passenger mile. Only about 1% of our travel is on urban transit, but the subsidies are 60 cents a passenger mile. So the subsidies to Amtrak and to urban transit are far greater than to driving. Now, I don't think we should have any subsidies at all, but you don't say we need to have more subsidies for Amtrak because there's a little bit of subsidy for driving.
So the taxpayer is being taken.
The taxpayer is being taken. A lot of money is going into the pockets of people who are building these rail lines. A lot of money is going into the pockets of transit unions who are getting, union members are getting very cushy jobs that are very, a lot of bus drivers get paid over $100,000 a year, and it's all coming out of our pockets.
Thank you, Randall O'Toole. I feel educated. When we return, if we're skeptical of these government schemes for improving transportation, is there another way? Yes, there is.